just realized that I have to unmute us right here or else it won't show because it fades out. Welcome, everybody, to the X1Bros. This is your positive gaming and Xbox podcast. We're back. It's 2022, 2021 has ended. And here we go. We're back. We're hanging out. We're having fun. We're actually doing this early because I'm going out of town this week, but we had to get back and say hello. We're doing this remote. Normally we're in person, but we've all been sick. So as always, I'm joined by Jordan the Man and Mr. McSpicy. Jordan the Man, Mr. McSpicy, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah. Happy New Year to you too, David.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's been a good week. We actually have some big news stories on a not so big news story week. Traditionally, the last 2 weeks are a little slow with news, but Mass Effect coming to Game Pass.
Awesome. The legendary, right?
Yeah, that's super frustrating if you bought it like 3 months ago.
Yeah, that always happens. That always happens to Jordan the Man.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, it happened to me today.
Can I tell the story? Please let me tell the story.
Yeah, it literally happened to me like 4 hours ago.
So Jordan calls me up today. So everybody that's familiar with Jordan, he has a curse that when he buys something, it immediately goes on sale or they come out with a new version, i.e. graphics cards, games, movies, everything. So today he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, Mark, I just got a little monitor that has a really good refresh rate. You should get one too." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Let me figure it out." Long story short, I'm convinced. I go to Best Buy with him after he had gone there like 4 hours previously. And we get there. And in the amount of time that he had bought the monitor, within that 4 hours, a better, bigger, exact model, but 4.5 inches bigger, you'd say, went on $100 off sale.
So we got that for this. You could get the bigger one for the same price or the bigger one for cheaper.
The bigger one for cheaper. It's literally like I got the 27-inch. You can get the 32 for $100 less, and it's the exact same everything. It's just a bigger one.
Within 4 hours of Jordan purchasing that, the sale went on, and I came out golden. Thanks, Jordan, for buying that before I did.
Yeah, so that was frustrating. But yeah, that happens to me all the time. I think it's fantastic that it's coming to Game Pass. Because I had never played, so I still am working through it myself. I'm on number 2 right now, which is incredible. Number 1 was really fun, although you could see the date, it's dated. Still really fun though. I think I'm not upset that I bought it. It was well worth it for $60, and it's even more worth it now that it's on Game Pass. What an amazing deal!
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've never played Mass Effect at all. I played the Andromeda for the little intro tutorial.
We don't talk about that one, although we can talk about it. It's like they put Mass Effect on a sticker of another game, kind of in a weird way. It's in the same universe, but none of the characters from the previous trilogy are there.
Technically, it's in the Andromeda universe.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Well, no, you could really, especially like David being a fan of like Dragon Age Origins.
Yeah.
Or even being a fan of the original Knights of the Old Republic game, which were all like your classic BioWare games. It feels like when you play the original Mass Effect and then even going to Mass Effect 2, it feels like it was the next evolution of like Knights of the Old Republic. If you ever played Knights of the Old Republic way back in the day, it feels much more like a BioWare game than I would even say Dragon Age Inquisition and Mass Effect 4. It feels like classic BioWare, which is all storytelling. Basically, that's all it is. It's just storytelling and the way they tell the story and your attachment to these characters. That's all it is. I mean, that's all you need.
And they do it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel. I see chat. Andrew Cullinane says Andromeda is my favorite one, Spicy. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
No, he did his. So you can't see it, but that's the Spicy emote.
Okay.
He's taunting you.
I feel because I played it a little bit too. I haven't gone through fully again, but I did start another playthrough of that game, just like Jordan did. But I feel as though going back and playing those, you can tell that the writing and the character development and the story just feels so much more fluid,
fleshed out.
It just feels like like classic BioWare. I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was BioWare's prime, right? So that's them in their prime, and they've really never. I mean, even Dragon Age Origins, right? From Dragon's Age Origins to 2 and 3, they've really never got back to what made the first one so good.
Well, and especially going back to the first Mass Effect, because the gameplay in the first Mass Effect is super dated. So like it's almost like they had to rely on their storytelling. And I think that's what makes it so good, and that's what gets you so invested into the story. And then coming into Mass Effect 2, you can tell they got a much higher budget because everything just gets cranked up.
Yeah.
So right now, I mean, it's really good. I have nothing but good. I haven't finished it yet. I'm probably about maybe a quarter of the way or halfway through Mass Effect 2, but it's really well done.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, I'm excited to jump in. It's on Game Pass. That's huge. Straw Tuna over on Twitch says, I was about to buy it when I saw the news, but I can't wait to replay Mass Effect 2.
Well, and just remember, not only is it all 3 games, it's all the DLC with each of those games too. So you're getting
one DLC. Yeah, I think there's one DLC that you don't get though, but it's
like
everything except
multiplayer
for one.
DLCs.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, that you don't get, but that's huge. That's huge. The value of Game Pass. It's ginormous, everyone. It's ginormous.
Yeah, it's exciting. If you haven't played any of the Mass Effects, I mean, even when it came out 3 months ago when Jordan bought them, I actually bought them too. But when it came out, I said it before. If you haven't played it, these games are phenomenal. They're on many people's top games they've ever played lists type thing. So, and it's a wonderful sci-fi. The story is awesome. I think these games are kind of what put deep, immersive story gameplay on the map. I think they classic, we'll call it classic BioWare. I think they made we wouldn't have, like, for example, I feel maybe this is controversial. I feel like maybe we wouldn't have Witcher 3 if it wasn't for these Mass Effect games. If that, like the depth that these deep storytelling games go through, I feel as though these should be on the table as far as why we have the games that we have today.
Well,
they're very, very good.
Well, and just branching storylines, and maybe there was games that did this before, but I believe Mass Effect was the first mainstream game to do it.
Yeah.
Choices carrying over from 1 to 2 to 3. Your choices matter. So what I did in number 1 actually matter character-wise, and who's in my party and everything in number 2, which is really cool. And more games have done that since then, but I believe BioWare was the first one to, or at least first mainstream to do that with the Mass Effect series.
Well, and the permanence of those choices is actually really super cool. I remember Jordan, when he was doing his playthrough, he called me up and he's like, so I think I accidentally killed a character.
It was not intentional.
Yeah. And I know. And I was like, I did not know you could even kill that character. How did you do that? And so those, which, by the way, in my gameplay, that character meant something later on in the trilogy and later iterations of, the sequels and everything. And so I was actually really impressed that Jordan pulled that off. Because
I didn't know it happened, but it happened.
Then the story could shift all the way across his playthrough. So if you haven't played these, I think you should. I think they're very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
the only thing I would say going into it, if it's your first time going into it, and this may or may not bother you, is the first one gameplay wise is pretty dated. Like, you can feel that it was a product of its time. It was kind of they were still trying to figure out what worked best in a third person shooter, because this was before Gears, right? If I remember correctly, Mass Effect was before Gears of War. I think Mass Effect 1 was a launch title for the Xbox 360. Maybe
Good
not,
question.
but I believe, if someone wants to look it up, I believe it came before Gears of War. And Gears of War really kind of honed that third person, feel, that third person gameplay. But no, other than that, the story is really good. The choices you make are really cool. And it's awesome to see your choices go from Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2, and then eventually into Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, no, it's super exciting, and it's just great. I mean, the value of Game Pass entering 2022, again, we continue the trend of 2021 that is just such a huge value, such a good value, the best value in gaming, and Game Pass just continues to prove itself. So well done, Microsoft. Do you think Microsoft...
Gears came first. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh,
Gears did come first. Yeah.
Well, I was wrong.
but
Never mind
but
then.
but it was around the same time period for sure. Well, actually,
Was Gears a launch title?
exactly
Maybe.
a year apart. Gears came out in 2006. Mass Effect came out in 2007. Exactly a year apart.
Oh yeah, so maybe Gears was the launch title. So regardless, the gameplay
Yeah.
is dated, and they didn't really hone in that third person till number 2. But still, story and dialogue and choices you make are all, I would say, top tier, and it's what makes BioWare at its that's BioWare at its prime, I think.
Yeah, I think a good way to think about when these games were released and why they feel dated. If you were born in the same year that Gears came out, I think you can drive now, or you're really close to being able to drive.
So you are 2007.
2006 is Gears, so
6 is Gears.
so that's
10 would
15
be
years old.
15 and
16 years old.
4.
So
10 and 4, 14. You're 14. You're getting close. You're getting close.
you're getting close to being able to drive. So yes, a game this old is going to feel dated. You can't get around that, especially not a platformer. I think platformers can stand the test of time.
Yeah.
So-
It was I mean, I say it was only the gameplay, because it really is only the gameplay, because I was in that first game. When I was playing through it, I was super immersed in the storytelling and the decisions I had to make, and I was excited to learn more about the companions on my ship, what some of their side quests were, doing some of their side quests. And that's why I think Mass Effect 2 is probably like the apex of BioWare, right? But Mass Effect 1 is them on their way, like entering their prime. It's really good, guys. It's really good.
That's all he's trying to say.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's good.
He's just saying it's a good game.
It's good. Well, so Xbox, I feel like, did a really good job of just building momentum in 2021.
Mhm.
Will Xbox continue that momentum in 2022? So far, I mean, with this Game Pass announcement, it looks like it. They've got a ton of games in development. But proof positive, I personally think Xbox will not only continue this way, and yes, you can call me a fanboy for this, but I think they'll dominate. I really do. I think we're seeing Xbox just lead gaming right now in ways that Xbox hasn't done in a generation, at least, right? And one of the articles that came out over New Year's that we haven't had a chance to talk about, or not articles, but pieces of information, was the sales from Steam and how Xbox games did on that. So Steam breaks it down from platinum, gold, platinum, gold, silver, bronze. And those are the most gross revenue games. So in platinum, you've got games like Apex Legends and Battlefields. There are no real Microsoft games in platinum, but in gold category, which is really, really good, you have for 2021 top grossing games over on Steam. You've got Sea of Thieves, Forza Horizon 4, Forza Horizon 5, and The Elder Scrolls Online, which, guess what, everybody, is now a Microsoft game, now a Microsoft title. That's absolutely huge. And that's not it. In the silver category, you've got Halo Infinite and Age of Empires 4. Then in the bronze category, you've got Halo Master Chief Collection, Doom Eternal, Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Skyrim Special Edition, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, Fallout 4, and Microsoft Flight Simulator. So Microsoft making this decision to put their games not just on console, but also on PC. Granted, some of those titles are from an acquisition via Bethesda or ZeniMax Studios, but they don't. I mean, I
don't even think you need to add a but there. I mean, that decision for them to purchase that company for what, $8 billion?
You can call it a technicality, but they're theirs now.
Yeah.
They own them.
They own them. So yeah, put that into their category now, because they deserve it with that purchase. But yeah.
What's really impressive to me anyway is Sea of Thieves. That game came out in 2018. I know it was just released on Steam this last year, right? Well, was it this last year? Was it the year before? And it just did really well this last year. But anyway, good for Sea of Thieves for being out. What, 2018? That's 4 years now. Still doing really well. Still supporting their game really well. I find that impressive, and it's super interesting to me that the power that Steam has. I mean, think about it. There's people out there that only use Steam. It's why Origin and Epic although doing well, Epic especially, have a hard time breaking into that market because people are just so invested in Steam, and Steam has that, what do you call it, the first
mover advantage.
First mover advantage. Like look at your Steam libraries. Like Steam is such a powerful presence on the PC, and once Microsoft released their games on there, look how well they do. I'm speechless. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just think leading the way, there was all kinds of criticism, well, what purpose do I have to buy an Xbox? I mean, there's still a purpose to buy an Xbox. The purpose is, if you think about this, that strategy, going and offering your games everywhere on PC and on console, forces you to build a console that competes with the PC.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did with the Series X. That's exactly what they did with the Series S. And that price point came in. Series S, best holiday selling console this year. Now, there's some caveats there. It was the one most widely available as well, but still, absolutely crushing it. I mean, the champions don't complain because the opposing team was sick that day. They just take the win.
Wow. Yeah. Wait, did you get that from somewhere? Or did you just come up with that?
It's right off my head.
Holy cow. Can I make that a shirt?
It's just right off my head. Yeah. Take the win.
Take the win. Wow. That should be, yeah. I'm going to make that a shirt. Hold on. I'm writing that down. Take the win.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see more of this. I think it's smart. Sony's jumping in on it as well. Mm-hmm. Slowly trickling out some games there. I think it just makes sense to have all your titles everywhere. And then it underscores your Game Pass strategy as well.
Well, it's super interesting to see the shift from, I mean, would you call it, I don't want to say exclusives because they're still exclusives, but it's interesting seeing the shift from exclusive games to exclusive ecosystems. Does that make sense? Like Halo isn't just available on the Xbox now, it's available on the Xbox ecosystem.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see the shift from what we're used to with gaming consoles to what we have now.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that, and it's super exciting. Rainbow Six Extraction is coming day one as well to Game Pass.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Which is
I think this goes along with the other piece of news that we have, which is Ubisoft Plus is supposedly coming to Xbox as well.
Yeah, well, Game Pass. So Ubisoft Plus is a subscription service like EA Plus. Doesn't mean that it's on Game Pass, but perhaps one day it comes to Game Pass, the entire subscription service.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're a Game Pass Ultimate member, you are automatically EA Access member.
Yeah,
sorry, it used to be called EA Access. It's EA Plus now, right? Something like that.
So what's the story? What do you guys
play?
So Ubisoft's what's Plus is coming to what?
To the console, to Xbox. So you'll be able to subscribe to all of Ubisoft. Is Ubisoft big enough to pull that off?
I think this is my theory. I think they're going to go the way of what EA did. EA tried to do EA Access. It's now called EA Play, right? I think they rebranded it. But then EA Access or EA Play eventually merged with Game Pass. I think Ubisoft and Microsoft will come to a deal where Ubisoft kind of is merged with Game Pass, because it just makes sense. Because if you're an average consumer, right? You're an average Joe. You just bought your Series X for Christmas. What are you going to get? Are you going to use your subscription to get Game Pass, or are you going to use your subscription to get Ubisoft Plus?
Yeah, I mean, the value is definitely on the Game Pass.
Yeah, because not only are you getting Game Pass, but with Game Pass Ultimate, you're getting all the PC stuff, and you're getting, if you have a PC, and you're getting the EA Play stuff. So I mean, I think the market is naturally going to shift towards Game Pass if you're an Xbox owner, right? So I think just a prediction. I think it's inevitable that Ubisoft Plus eventually combines with Game Pass somehow.
There you go. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. And also, inevitable is a fun word to say.
Yeah, I watched Matrix this week.
Wait, you watched
alert? Number 4 sucks.
So. All right, this just in. Jordan hated Matrix 4.
I have avoided watching it because I've heard that from multiple people. So
yeah,
well, that's too bad, man.
It really is. It really is. It's a shame. There was some good parts where you're like, this could go in somewhere, and then it didn't.
Then it did. It just never.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like there's interesting parts in it, but then it just doesn't.
Is it because of the story? Like, did they just not?
Well, it's because a lot of things, really.
Okay, we can talk after the show. I don't want to spoil anything for listeners, but because I really liked Matrix. Man, that's a great show.
Yeah, the trilogy is good, and the trilogy is much better than this newest one.
On Ubisoft Plus, Red Notice writes in and says 100 plus titles in Ubisoft Plus. Apparently, that was way more than I expected. That's true. You got to think that's probably backwards compatible titles, right? So that's going to be some older titles as well. But I mean, good for Ubisoft. I just question whether or not software only can do it versus a Sony versus a Steam, even. That is basically your PC console, for lack of a better term, or Xbox. I feel like you've got to own this, a wider variety than just your own titles to have a largely successful subscription service.
And don't get me wrong, Ubisoft has some good titles, right? Obviously, they have their big ones like Assassin's Creed and Ghost Recon, and then you have Far Cry, and then you have your gems like the South Park games, which I believe are both Ubisoft. I know one of them is for sure, but I don't know. I think when you
Just Dance, Jordan, don't forget about Just Dance.
Dance. But I think when you stack them as a consumer, like the average Joe, when you're looking at both of them side by side, I mean, I guess it depends on if you're a huge Ubisoft fan or not. But I mean, I don't know. I think Game Pass is the better value.
Well, I mean, there is still value. I mean, because I'm looking at this list, and I knew that they are there, but just to refresh, I mean, you mentioned all those games. The Crew is on there, which I thought was a decent game, that IP as well. But Rayman Legends, Child of Light, Watch Dogs. There's actually, I saw one that I really, really like. Immortals Phoenix Rising was one of their titles too. So you have, I think in the last like 5 years, they have come out very, very strong.
Yeah, you don't realize some of those games. You forget like Immortals Phoenix Rising is there. That's solid.
Yeah, and that's a really, really good game. I think they are coming out very strong. I agree with Jordan. I think this move is kind of like a precursor to another move that's inevitable.
Inevitable.
I agree totally with Jordan. I think it's gonna happen. That's my prediction too.
Let's talk Rainbow Six Extraction. Speaking of Ubisoft, now Extraction. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jordan the Man. Correct me if I'm wrong. Extraction is Rainbow Six attempt at the Tarkov mode.
Well, isn't it their like zombie style mode?
Yes, but isn't it high risk, high reward as well with this?
I believe so. I remember the trailer from a while ago.
Yeah, so this is coming Game Pass day 1, which is interesting. It's a shift. It's basically a new game mode within Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six Siege obviously absolutely crushes it. One of the strongest esports games year in and year out, is really well supported. Just a fun game. Is a tactical shooter, unlike any other shooter, I think, on the on the scene right now.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons, I mean, this is just a personal opinion, so take it or leave it. It does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the other guys on this show, but I think it's a very, very fun game to watch, which I think relates well to audiences. It's more simple to understand than, say, like Overwatch, which there is so much happening at the same time, which there still is at the pro level. There still is a lot happening in this game, but it's easier to understand for those like new viewers. These guys are stopping them, and these guys are trying to do something and shoot, bang, bang, and post up. Yeah. I just feel like it's so much more easier to understand as a game than others.
Attack and defend. It's also very situational. So you get into these situations like, oh man, there's one guy left against 3. Yeah. He's hunkering down here. What does he do? So it is
super exciting. And there's these calm moments where things aren't happening, which gives the announcers time to talk, to speak.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like American football, that's kind of why we like to watch that so much, because every down matters and something can happen every single time that is crazy. And so it's really fun to watch. And I consider Rainbow Six kind of like that too, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Extraction, so like you said, David, it's a risk reward, right? I don't know if it's the high risk, high reward, but basically, if you're not familiar with it, this is a sub game, if you will. It's excuse me.
We're all sick.
Woo.
I know. Anyway, it's not zombies, it's aliens, but whatever, same difference, So basically, you're assigned.
Is it though, Jordan? Is it?
You're assigned an objective, and you have to complete that objective. And if you do complete that objective, you can choose to either extract with that objective complete, or you can choose to go deeper into the level. and then complete more objectives and get more rewards. So there's your risk reward right there. So I think it's going to be a fun game. It sounds like a fun concept, and a lot of the operators from Siege are going to be in this version of the game. So with it being on Game Pass, obviously we're going to try it out.
Yeah, no, it's going to be cool. Day one, Game Pass, January 20th, I think, is the release date for that. So just at the end of the month here, really, big boy Will in chat says Ubisoft has been stepping it up. I agreed. I mean, coming out hard for 2022 here.
Yeah, chat's also saying zombied aliens. So
That's the next level.
That's what they are.
That's the escalation of the next game.
But I mean, just look at the value of Game Pass though, because this is a Ubisoft game, right? That is going to be on Game Pass and you're also getting now the Legendary Edition of Mass Effect. I mean, what a way to start out the year with Game Pass, huh?
Yeah, no, absolutely, completely agree. I have to give it to you guys. So everybody, we're all sick. We've all been like, I'm pretty sure we all have COVID. Has anyone I don't think none of us have gotten tested. I'm like 90. We're all 90% sure it's COVID. So get that over with at the end of the year, right? Anyways, so
check that off the list.
So I get a text.
Bucket list, yeah.
I get a text from Jordan the man. Hey, it was a group text. Hey, let's play some games. I'm going to sleep. I'm sick. And I said, I'm sick. And he's responded, so? And I responded, so I'm going to sleep. Not realizing that I didn't know that him and McSpicy were also sick. And dude, you guys are hardcore. I'm sick. I'm going to sleep. They're sick. They're playing games still over the break. That is awesome.
Yeah, it was
very... You can't live a rock star life without living a rock star life.
I mean, I'm a wuss. So I asked Jordan, I was like, you're playing games while you're sick? He's like, well, what else am I going to do? What games did you guys play over the holiday break?
I finished the Halo Battle Pass, which was nice.
Yeah, that's an accomplishment. That's
and
great.
It's 75 levels are all natural. I only bought the premium pack, which gave me the first 25 levels, so 75 of those levels are all natural.
You earned it.
Yeah. And then we played Tarkov, and then I actually just started playing Battlefield 2042 again.
Oh yeah,
they had a few updates during the month of December, which have improved the game
drastically. So, not drastically.
A lot of quality of life stuff. I would say. I think I was talking to Matt Ballsy. I think he recently just bought the game. If you were to buy it now, it's in much better shape than what it was at launch. If you're to buy it on the console, I feel like you're safe and you're good and you'll have a lot of fun. Maybe on the PC, if you're looking to buy it on the PC, maybe wait for another performance patch, because I still think they're having a few issues on the PC, like the performance isn't quite there yet. But on the console, it's fun. They added back. One of my criticisms was they took away some stuff from previous Battlefield games. Like when you die, it used to show you where a medic was. So you can see, oh, there's a medic 10 meters away. I'll just wait to be revived. They re-added that into the game, which is a great feature. At me, as I play a medic, it's been nice to see not everybody just holding the A skip button down. Like people wait because they can see that I'm nearby, and so they've added a lot of quality of life features which
that should have been in there originally.
In there from the beginning, yes. But I mean, we're kind of taking what we can get. So, but no, it's been a lot of fun to jump back into it after I think they had 3 or 4 patches through the month of December, which has been really, really cool.
Yeah, very, very nice. McSpicy, how about you? Anything on your gaming plate at the moment?
Yeah, I finished the Halo campaign.
Ooh, and give me your thoughts as far as overall. Did it live up to expectations? You excited for what's coming with it, or were you a little let down?
No, I think they did an excellent job. I would mirror everything Jordan said in the previous weeks. I think he did a really good job summarizing things. But I would add, I think they did a good job how they're setting it up to make the game continually playable later. Things I guess, let me start with criticisms. I think having the collectibles on levels you can't play is not very user friendly. Granted, yeah, we can go back and play on easy mode, and like, for example, the skulls, which are the most important collectible, I think, to me, is trying to collect all those skulls because they change gameplay and stuff like that. Having those built into levels, I don't think that you can't play later. I don't think I agree with. I think you probably should have made them in other places or made a way to replay those temporarily. I don't know how you would have.
Well, yeah,
how
just like in previous games, just have a mission list.
Yeah.
Because there is main missions that you do, and then there's the open world,
Yeah,
you know,
and there are skulls.
world, right?
There are skulls in the open world, which we actually found. Barbara Blake, friend of the show, found one randomly in a canyon. No spoilers, but it was randomly down there, and we all went and got it.
Yeah.
And I found one on accident too, above a tower. Things like that. Their skulls all about in the world, but having them behind locked missions that you can only get when you play through the game and you can't go back to that was probably for me the most frustrating part, which is actually saying something because of how good this game is.
Mhm.
That's something that's I would say is negligible considering all you do is just play another playthrough with your whole goal as to get the skulls, and that's fine, but you could have done that without forcing me to do that. But as far as the story, I think they did a really good job. Jordan said this, that they took things that most of the fans did not like from the previous stories and kind of fixed them in an interesting way, and a way that I think is okay with how they did things. I think the story itself is fantastic. I really like how they kind of humanized Master Chief in a way to show that I think he considers himself kind of like a machine, but he cares,
Yeah,
like
that's actually exactly the best way to put it. He's a machine, like the way I don't know. He's not a machine. I mean, he is and he isn't, right? He almost acts like a machine, but you're right. He cares.
he cares. And they did a really good job showing that in the cutscenes, in the game, in a whole bunch of stuff, which I consider, Jordan was rating this, I would consider one of the best Halos I've played. I think it would be tied for first or second place.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just as good as the original trilogy. Now, there can be a lot of arguments of out of the original trilogy, which ones are the best. Like Halo 3 is one of my favorites. I think it's right now it's just as good. I don't know. It's hard to say, because when you think of the original 3, you think of them as a trilogy, and it's that overall, like, Halo 3 is good because it had a good conclusion to the story, right?
Yeah. Well, and it starts out so strong, and it starts and throughout the gameplay, it's super cool how you have allies that you didn't have before. You fought, a whole bunch of stuff. The campaign in Halo 3 is just
gameplay wise and mechanics. I think this is one of the best, if not the best, since Halo 3. Story wise, I kind of want to wait and see what they do later to continue the story and how kind of things play out for some of these stories, but it's up there with the original 3.
I know. I see, Jordan, I kind of lean towards this as my favorite one, because across the board, if you were to like 1 out of 5, it's got 5s like all the way across, just like Halo 3 would, I would consider. And this game also has the hook shot. So I kind of lean a little bit more towards this one, just because I can be Master Chief Spider-Man slinging through the trees.
Well, and the way they implemented the hook shot, it works really well. It still feels like a Halo game, and I think that was an accomplishment all on its own. Modernizing the game while making it feel like a Halo game. It feels like modern Halo 3.
And the multiplayer is so good.
Oh, the multiplayer. That's why I think the gameplay is the best since Halo 3. Probably even best in the series. I would say you can argue.
Yeah. It's hard to, when you have such good mechanics on the mantle and you're looking back at all the other games with their mechanics. It's hard to actually quantify which one is up there or whatever, but I think it's one of my favorite Halos that I've played. So David, I really liked it. To answer your question.
Very good. Burton dude 33 dropped a super chat for us and says, I wasn't expecting much with an open world Halo, but I was wrong and I'm loving it. There you go. Thank you, Burn Dude, for that super chat. And yeah, that seems to be the consensus. A lot of people really, really liked this version of Halo. Again, I think it's universal. This is one of the best Halos, and for a lot of people, it is their favorite Halo. Tony Hernandez said this is the worst multiplayer launch in the history of the franchise. Is that true?
So maybe he's considering the XP launch, which I think we need to distinguish between the actual multiplayer gameplay, and mechanics,
versus leveling
and playability of launch. Because if you're talking about playability of launch, I mean,
Master Chief Collection sucked.
Yeah, that one. I think
that one. I mean, is it good yet?
I think we can universally agree that one's probably number one.
Yeah.
On worst launch.
So maybe he's considering the whole XP system, the grind that they originally had, which I give them a little bit of leeway because they launched before they were going to, and I mean, they still considered the multiplayer at the time the beta. I would consider that whole first month the beta test to try to figure things out. Remember, it was free. We did not have to pay for that. So with free games, I kind of give a little bit more leeway, especially beta free games when they're testing things out, which they definitely were, because I mean, they made mistakes with that XP. There's no denying that with how the battle pass was progressing.
But I would say from a gameplay standpoint, because I'm going to be honest, I very much dislike the way the progression is gained, especially now that I am 100 on the battle pass. I feel like, I mean, obviously there's reason for me to play, to have fun, to get up the grind and rank, but I feel like there's nothing else for me to progress until next season. So I wish they had some other type of progression. But from a gameplay standpoint, I think this is one of the better launches. I mean, so there's gameplay mechanics and then there's gameplay systems. The battle pass is a gameplay system. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the gameplay mechanics within the game, right? The gameplay mechanics, I think, are solid. I think the launch itself, if I did have any dropped sessions, there's okay. To be fair, we did have whenever we were trying to connect with maybe more than 4 in our fire team, like when we were playing with members of the community and we got up to maybe anywhere between 5 and 10 players or higher, there was some issues, which I will say that. And then I know there was custom game issues too. So there were issues with custom games, and then if you had bigger fire teams, but I don't think that was enough to ruin the launch. Not by a long shot. Not compared to Master Chief Collection or even Battlefield. I would say Battlefield 2042 had a worse launch than Halo.
Yeah. So and like I mentioned before, the gameplay for me is the most important thing. If the game sucks, you won't play it. But the gameplay was top tier.
Yeah,
it is. Multiplayer is amazing. I feel like the weapons are in a good place. I feel like this may be controversial, but I feel like the time to kill is in a very, very good spot because it feels Halo. If you're used to quick time to kills, like in Call of Duty, it definitely is going to take adjustment. But knowing that when you get shot from behind, that there's always a way to win a fight because they can't kill you immediately unless they have, of course, a power weapon like a rocket launcher or something. It makes the dynamic of the gameplay super interesting, and what people do to get out of situations and adapt and change and recharge your shields and figure out another way to. It really is unique to Halo. And I find that a very, very nostalgic. Maybe I'm biased because I find it nostalgic, but I find it very, very fun. Considering, I mean, if I want the quick time to kill, I can still go play Call of Duty. I can still go play Escape from Tarkov, which is you explode when somebody sees you. Stuff. So I don't think you can get that type of gameplay anywhere else. And I just think Halo came out strong, and I think it's a really good game.
Yes, I mean, I think even with the custom game issues, and if you were getting into a bigger fire team for big team battle, there was a few issues there, but other than that, I mean, and those issues, they happened. You reset your game, and then things would start working again. So yeah, it was a frustration, but it wasn't like a lot of games it wasn't like a lot of frustrations we have with games launching nowadays, like Master Chief Collection, or even Battlefield 2042 had some frustrating bugs in it, right? I felt that even for them releasing early, it was a really pretty, well, I would say like a 90% polished experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I said, the gameplay systems need work, like systems as in battle pass, challenges, progression, customization, all that stuff. Those are all gameplay systems, and I do agree that those need work. The gameplay mechanics and the actual gameplay itself, like the multiplayer and everything, I didn't have any real issues with it. I thought the launch was very smooth from their part.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Let's take some questions. This is a good discussion. Happy Mayo writes in and says, let's start off by saying, bros, thank you for another great year of content and laughs. Happy Mayo, thank you very much. He says, your all's positivity and passion for games is second to none. I thank you. Well, thank you very much, Happy Mayo. Now with Halo did I say Halo? Happy Mayo. Thank you very much. He says, now with Halo Infinite, in my opinion, being a great success. After the challenges update, giving players quicker progression, when they drop co-op and Forge, I feel like this is the console selling beast Microsoft has needed. I'm obsessed with it, he says. With all that being said, do you think this is making Sony sweat? How much pressure is being put on them to compete with Halo Game Pass plus Halo Infinite? No-brainer purchase. I think Microsoft just dropped the check, and the co-op and Forge will be the checkmate. Roll Tide, boys. Thoughts? Let's start with Jordan the Man. Happy Mayo.
Well, this is actually
Sony sweating. It's kind of, are they even worried? Because are they concerned with first-person shooter games at all?
well. I think Microsoft and Sony, to be effective at what they do, I think they always have to kind of be somewhat concerned, because you never know what the other guy's going to do. So I think I think they're always trying to do their best. I hope anyway. Maybe not. No, this is actually really interesting, because if you look at Sony, I mean, I have my PlayStation over there, and I play my PlayStation primarily for the exclusives, right? Most third-party stuff I'll bring over on the Xbox. That's where a lot of my friends are. But exclusives, if we're thinking exclusives for Sony, and chat, jump in if I'm not thinking of one here, but I can't really think of a PlayStation exclusive that is really focused on multiplayer. And that's not a bad thing. That's just PlayStation style. They have really amazing single player games like the Uncharted series. Now, Uncharted did have multiplayer, but it was primarily focused on that single player. Uncharted 4 had a lot of good multiplayer, Uncharted 4 had a lot of good multiplayer, but you really bought it for the campaign, and you primarily played it for the campaign. You have, God of War, Ratchet and Clank, right? All very single player focused games. Spider-Man. I don't think this is an interesting question, because I don't think Sony really has an exclusive multiplayer game that can compete with Halo's multiplayer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes
and I think that's where Halo does really well. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of people buy Halo to play the single player, myself included. The single player campaign was really well done. But what keeps me coming back to Halo over and over again? It's the multiplayer. I mean, you can only go back and do the single player stuff so many times. The multiplayer is what keeps you bringing back. And I don't know if Sony has an exclusive answer to that, right? They have your third party games like Call of Duty and stuff like that, but so does Xbox. And I think that's where Halo has the advantage in that case. And like you said, when you drop co-op and Forge, again, multiplayer experiences. Forge only increases the value of multiplayer because of the game modes you get that are going to be made for multiplayer, right? So I don't know if it's game over essentially, but it does put Microsoft in a good spot, especially with this franchise. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I think in a straight up comparison, Microsoft and Sony they definitely have different styles and a different strategy in going about it. I think where you do need to be concerned if you're the competition of Microsoft is that when Sony does what Sony does really well, i.e. God of War, they knock it out of the park. that sells their ecosystem, that sells consoles, that sells their future PlayStation Pass, whatever it is they're trying to sell. Microsoft hasn't had that for a generation. Microsoft has that with Halo Infinite. When Microsoft does what it does really well, Gears, Halo, Forza, those are console sellers, and you wrap that in with Game Pass. That's an ecosystem seller, and now you can also do that on PC. You're not limiting yourself. You can also do that over the cloud as that technology improves as well. So I do think you have to be conservative. I'm not sure that you can compare apples to apples because they're taking two different styles and two different strategies.
Yeah.
Overall.
Well, even
but
those
Microsoft, what Halo does indicate, to Happy Mayo's point, is that Microsoft is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, well, even those 3 games that you just mentioned, David, all have a multiplayer aspect to it that goes well beyond the launch of the game. I mean, Gears of War multiplayer is still going fairly strong, and then I mean, you can play Forza by yourself, but in my opinion, it's more fun when you convoy up and play with your friends.
Yeah,
I think that's where I don't know. Microsoft just has those multiplayer exclusives, if you will, that I think does well for them.
Yeah. Spicy thoughts on Happy Mayo's question.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. Just to, I think the root of his question was, is it making Sony sweat a little bit? So I don't think I'd use that term. I use this term all the time with Jordan. When we're leaning back, playing games, enjoying ourselves, let's say in Halo, we're having a good time, we're relaxing. But then when we want to win, we use the term, well, we lean forward. So I think making Sony sweat, I don't think that's necessarily what they're doing. When Microsoft is turning up their game, I think Sony is going to lean forward. I think that's what they're doing when they're moving their play. They're having their own service similar. We got news about that a couple months ago. Their own service similar to Game Pass, for example. I think that's more aligned or more or less what they're going to do. Because I really feel like Sony has had several years of coasting, relaxing, playing an MMO, relaxing, hanging back. Yeah, we're the kings. Nothing can touch us. But I think Microsoft has been playing these moves for years, and it's all starting to accumulate and to gain momentum. You use that word, David, a lot. They're gaining momentum, and I think Sony is not sweating. I think they're just going to they're going to become very, very, very focused, which ultimately helps us. We are going to get services like Game Pass. We're going to get just a lot of even at the hardware level, we're getting these systems that are super, super powerful. We're even getting I saw it in chat, you brought it, you mentioned it. Sony is now releasing some of their exclusives to PC, which I think is a big deal. That's a really big deal. I think Sony's leaning forward. Microsoft has been leaning forward for years. They're focused, and I think sweat has it implies that they're nervous. I don't think Sony's nervous. I don't think Microsoft was nervous. I just think they just started leaning forward and focused, and they want to win. They just want to win, and I think that ultimately, helps us as consumers.
Amen. Great question, Happy Mayo. Thank you very much for writing in. Black Knight writes in and says, it seems that game developers have gone the route of DLC and seasonal events or seasonal passes. Do you think we will ever see game make sequels anymore, like Destiny 3, The Division 3, or StarCraft 3? That is a good question, Black Knight. Let's start with Mr. McSpicy on this one. Sequels, are they a thing of the past? I mean, Halo Infinite, technically, I don't think we're getting a sequel, at least not anytime soon.
That's an interesting question. I think the timeline has widened a lot. I think you will see a Destiny 3. I hope we see a StarCraft 3. But I think because of how the game industry is, and with how patches and uploads work on the fly, I think the lifespan of the games have widened significantly to the effect that, we'll see it less and less and less. But I think you still will see. I mean, in 15 years, are we really going to still see Destiny 2? I don't know. I think we're going to eventually see a Destiny 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it won't be
In
called Destiny 3. It'll be called Destiny Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Infinitely Destiny.
Well,
You know,
Eternal Destiny.
Jordan, well, I just think we still will get sequels. I just think they're no longer 5 to 10 years away. I think they're more like 15 to 20 years away.
yeah.
I think
Wow.
I think they're, even though Overwatch is trying to come out with Overwatch 2, I don't think that counts. I think I think
kind of
eventually
really weird.
yeah, that's a weird
People are
weird one.
Still confused.
Yeah, I still don't know what's going on with that. I think it's the model has definitely shifted and it's changed, but you at some point need to just cut off the old potatoes that people, I mean, the Series X eventually will be considered a potato. It doesn't sound like it because it's the world's most powerful console, man. It's badass, but in eventually it will be. It'll be like that South Park episode when Cartman goes to the future to get the Nintendo Wii early, and they say this system's archaic, and he's all, archaic? What do you mean? It has motion controllers. It's someday it will be, and someday that game will be so dated that they'll just have to do a refresh.
Well, it's really interesting because of the technology we have nowadays. I mean, I agree with you, Mark. I do think there will still be sequels for certain games, but I don't know if it's going to be. I mean, I don't know how much longer that would necessarily be around. And because of this is who does it for me is Fortnite. What Fortnite does really impresses me. I think it was their chapter 3 that I think it was just last September or just, I don't know, the chapter 3. They basically just moved the entire game over to Unreal Engine 5. So it's ready to go on the latest engine, which is optimized and ready for the latest hardware. You know what I mean? So
I think I don't mean to interrupt, but I think that's a rare case scenario because Epic is an engine developer,
Yeah, they know what they're doing. And of course, they were already on Unreal Engine. I believe they're on Unreal Engine 4, and it's probably not hard. Well, I don't want to say not hard, but it's probably easier to go from one to the other. But seeing that and seeing kind of what Halo's doing, where they just created their own engine with the Slipspace engine. Now, I don't know, obviously, the under the hood stuff of that, but I think because of the technology we have, and I don't think it's not going to happen tomorrow, but I think we're moving towards that direction to where you don't necessarily need sequels. I think it's going to be more like this. Eventually, instead of sequels, it'll be kind of like MMOs. We'll just get an expansion to that game, which is essentially a sequel, but it just keeps the game going. So I think Destiny 2 will be. I think eventually Destiny 2, because of when and how it was developed, will eventually have to become Destiny 3. But I think a lot of game developers like Epic are looking to that because it's probably much more cost effective for them. Instead of, hey, let's instead of making a whole new sequel with whole new assets, why don't we just update to the latest engine and we can just do all our stuff from there? You know what I mean? And yes, Epic is a special case because of who they are and what they do, but I think that eventually will be the trend, the future. You know what I mean?
And you have developers like Rockstar that have technically their own engine.
Yeah.
And I can totally see that. I would add, however, single player games will most likely still have sequels.
Yeah, probably. Like an Alan Wake to an Alan Wake 2 or Uncharted to Uncharted
correct.
2.
If there's not a Wolfenstein, Doom, like look at these games. They will have sequels for sure. I don't think you can get away from sequels on those. Yeah. It's really the multiplayer games that have that investment of XP gain, battle passes, etc. that will negate,
Well, I use Fortnite as an example because I find that fascinating. Yes, they do own the Unreal Engine, so I'm sure the Unreal Engine is probably built for Fortnite. Primarily, right? You know what I mean? Like
things that you shouldn't be able to do as a developer because they own the engine. Like I think Fortnite was originally just like a side project just to test out the engine. I could be wrong, but I really think that's what they did.
But I just think it's fascinating the technology they do. Like, remember when Fortnite? I don't know if they did this for Chapter 3, but for Chapter 2, remember they shut down the servers because they had to do like a whole reset to completely revamp the game. Like that, I think that was Fortnite 2, essentially. Well, it was Fortnite Chapter 2, right? That was their sequel while staying within that same universe and everything being carried over from your original.
And see, what they did to do that was in game. They made the menu go to like that little dot, and then eventually
the world.
I know it was. They do some crazy things because I think the game has been built as an engine. And that's like, I don't know how they do for certain things, but then when it started, didn't it blow back up? And then you flew into the new map. They did all this weird thing where technically you never even had to turn the game off, but it just went whoonk and you're in the new thing. It was like opening a door to a new world instead of restarting the game.
Or going to have to download a new game. I mean, I guess you downloaded a patch and stuff, but no, I think what they're doing, and you're right, it probably leans more towards multiplayer games than it does single player games. So I'm sure we'll still see sequels to single player games, but I don't think we'll ever see a quote unquote Fortnite 2. I think when 20 years from now, when they come out with Unreal Engine 6, it'll just upgrade to that engine. You know what I mean? And it'll just be this progressive thing. Now that, like, you're right. That does lean more towards multiplayer games than it does single player games, but even with Halo Infinite, I don't think we'll see Halo 7 for quite a while, if we ever do.
Well, with Halo Infinite, I mean, we talked about this. I feel as though it's going to be like World of Warcraft, where they're just going to keep adding islands to the map, because you open the map and you're on this massive Halo, but you're only in a section of it, and you still can't see the edges. It makes it look like it's just water. They could just keep expanding by islands over the course of the next 100 years. I mean, our great grandkids could be playing Halo Infinite.
Yeah. Well, even look at Destiny, using Destiny as an example. I mean, I think you're right. I think eventually we'll see a Destiny 3, or like David said, Destiny Forever. Everybody will start rebranding themselves.
Destiny Eternal.
Yeah. Go to that synonym
with
engine.
Destiny, the Witch Queen. I mean, they're just releasing expansions. You know what I mean? Essentially, which is essentially the next step. I don't know if you want to call it a sequel, but it's the next step in the journey. The next.
Well, the first
part of the story.
I think the first modern day game that's a single player game that really had no end to it is Skyrim, and that's because of community mods. But all that a Halo Infinite is, or all that we are in 2022, is developer mods. Adding on to, continually adding on new game modes, new areas, new maps, new missions, new ways to play. But Skyrim's done it already, and I think that's the model of the future.
Well, I think actually Skyrim's a perfect example because they just re-released it on everything.
I don't think they can release it on anything else because there's nothing else to release it on.
Yeah.
But think of like Hellblade, for example, David. I think those single player games, those come out and they have sequels. I feel like those games are meant for sequels.
Yeah.
No multiplayer. I think there's you have to distinguish those because people aren't going to want Hellblade 7 or whenever it comes out, Hellblade Infinite, because it's a story that you finish and the story ends, and maybe there's DLC.
Or do you? Yeah. Okay, well, do you think?
Well, you know what? You got me there.
Yeah. Well, great question. Regardless,
it was a really good question.
Thank you very much for writing in. That's a fantastic question. Beast says, happy first podcast. Cheers to the first podcast of 2022. Thank you for that super chat, Brande. Appreciate it. For everybody that's listening to the podcast, come join us over on YouTube. We have some big plans for 2022. Spicy and George the Man have been dropping their highlights and their clips as shorts every single day. We're bringing daily news over to the YouTube channel. So come and join us. Have fun. We're excited for 2022. YouTube.com/XoneBros. Make sure you come and join us there. Guys, first podcast of 2022. That does us.
We're done?
I feel like I was rusty. You know what I mean? I feel like that 2 weeks got to me.
Back into the groove. I mean? This is like the first inning.
I feel like it's like after Thanksgiving, you're trying to get that holiday weight off. That's how I feel right now. You know what I mean?
You're getting that holiday weight off.
There was a couple of times where I was talking, and then I was like, "What am I talking about?"
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Gotta get back into the groove.
we're thrown off. I don't think because it's our first one back, but because we're remote and over.
Yeah.
I mean, what we've done like 2 remote podcasts in the last
Ever? Well, minus the
5
first
years.
like 12 weeks
Yeah,
because we were remote there.
yeah.
You know, but we don't talk about those episodes.
I do want to
we-
shout
we-
out NK Woa. This is live NK Woa. Welcome. It's good to see you, brother. That's us, 2022. Can I just vent? Not vent, but
Yeah, absolutely. This is the platform, David, where you could just
like-
unload.
no, I want to tell you,
This is a safe place.
I am addicted to Yellowstone. You have got to have
Oh,
Yeah.
the
so
show.
Kevin Costner. No,
I finished it. It makes me want to be a cowboy that murders anyone that tries to take his land.
hey, true
what
true
it
story. David wears his cowboy hat while watching the show.
I don't have it. I don't have it on. Yeah, I have a picture. I will send it. I put on my robe.
A robe?
Yeah, I have 2 robes. Nice ones. So
Fingers
one is a
still
winter robe that's like thick. Ooh. And then I've got a nice little
Summer
mint
robe.
robe, also known as the summer robe that I put on. But robe, tied that bad boy up. Perrier, cowboy hat.
Do cowboys drink Perrier?
This cowboy does. Dude, it's so good.
You
I
keep telling me
really,
to
really
watch
like it. It's Sons of Anarchy on a ranch,
That's funny.
and I love it.
Do you want to talk about Wheel of Time? I'm ready to give my final opinions on
Oh
that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So ready for this? I do think it gets better, but I still have not been. It just has not hooked me. I keep getting distracted. Like I got back into Wheel of Time, watched a couple episodes, then Witcher came out, and I watched all of The Witcher. Which I really enjoyed. Not as good as the first one. I think they definitely got different directors. There's just a different feel there. First season, but it's still really good. Really good. Henry Cavill, by the way, as Geralt.
I do like him as Geralt.
Fantastic job.
Well, do you think they'd ever get? Wasn't there? I thought I heard rumors that they're maybe possibly trying to replace him, but I don't think you can.
Yeah, I don't. At this
I think
point,
he's perfect, and I think
he's Geralt.
I don't think you can change that. And he's perfect for a reason. It's because he's a Witcher fan, and
Dude,
you know.
it's so good. Here's what Witcher needs to do, though. Don't wait 2 years in between seasons. Like then, by the next time, the character that plays Ciri is going to be like 45. It doesn't work.
And she'll have from smoking. Hey guys, yeah.
you gotta come back next year or like within 6 months. Give me
Or even now, like I mean, we know it's popular. You know, Netflix is going to re-sign it. Do like season 3 and 4 at the same time, and then just release them. You know, one at the beginning of the year, one at the
Peter
end of the year.
Jackson, the thing, you know.
Yeah. Just come on.
Just film them all at the same time.
Okay, so let's go. Wheel of Time, spicy.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is considered boasting or not, but I want to kind of lay out my background on this to give you an idea of how much I cherish this Wheel of Time series. I probably have read this series more. I'm up on the top of the list of how many times I've read this versus how many, people are in the world. I don't know. I've read this. I can't even count how many times, and it's a long read. It's I think the quickest it ever took me was 6 months. I think the longest it ever took me was 14 months. There is a lot to read in these 14 books. There's 14 books and they're all thick. I love this series. I've tried to be very, very open while watching this, knowing that I knew that I was going to be let down regardless of whether it's good or not, because the books are I just cherish these books a lot. Now, I would say, I'm going to start out, if you don't want to hear this whole thing, I would say if you never plan on reading the books, then go for it. Watch the show. It's fine. It's the story. The show's story is based on a really good story. It has the backbone of really good things. Now, if you ever plan on reading the books, throw it away. Throw that show in the garbage, because it is. I don't want to be. I'm probably going to be really controversial here, and I don't mean to be, but this is coming from a very, very biased fan of the books. I think the show is a perversion of the characters. I think they
Wait, in like an HBO way, or
No,
or
no.
just like a
They
they ruined it.
they take
Wow.
characters that I cherish and they completely change them for no reason. They change them, their personalities, they change their stories, they change all of it about it. I don't see why they do it in some cases. I see why they do it in others. But there are characters they'll even, granted they're B characters, which means they're not that pivotal to the story, but they'll take them and they make a character like a lecher, like Matt's dad, Abel, which I really, really like. He's a good guy in the books, and he is in the Two Rivers. So the Two Rivers, where the story takes place, they're known for being very, very good bow shooters, archers. Psh, no one can outclass them in this story. And Abel is the best of the Two Rivers, and he's a really good guy. And granted, his story is a lot less than, say, like the main characters, but they make him a lecher. Like, they make him a womanizer that doesn't take care of his family or kids and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, okay, well, whatever, They make there's so many things I dislike. They make okay. Costume design, I'm going to go through it all real quick. Costume design is awesome in some cases and sucks in others. Like Moraine's blue dress.
Yeah, it's not
It's Abercrombie and Fitch.
Yeah.
That's their costume design.
I love like Moraine's blue dress. She's part of the Blue Aja and stuff. Her dress is awesome. But then they have this character which is awesome in the books. He's an Ogier. His name's Loyal. He looks like a cosplay at a crappy conference somewhere. He looks terrible.
We opened a can of worms with spicy.
No. Anyways, and I got all these opinions on by myself. I think they should not have done a lot of the things that they should have done. And when I went to after this, then I went and looked at some reviews, and it comes down to, if you've read the books, you hate it. If you haven't read the books, it's okay. That's what I get from the reviews on Amazon. And so that's why I said
that makes sense, because that was my initial disappointment. It was like, this is not what I pictured.
Well, yeah. So if you never plan on reading the books, it's okay. Watch it. It's fine. It's based on a really, really good story with really strong characters across. It's one of the most diverse character stories, and just so there. It's one of the original diversity stories. It's actually really, really awesome. I love the story. You have people from different nations being badasses. You have people from different genders being badass. You have everything is so good in this story, and I feel as though
Amazon ruined it.
Amazon just took these characters and it's so unbalanced. You have really good actors and really good choices in the actors and actresses, and then you have really bad choices, and it's confusing. Anyways, that's my feedback. I think,
you know what you need to do? You need to watch Yellowstone.
Yeah, I know.
While wearing a cowboy hat.
Wearing a cowboy hat. That's what you need to do.
Yeah, I think so bottom line is, you'll be fine if you've never planned on reading the books, because it is a time investment to read those books. But
real quick, I do want to shout out our super chat. NK Woa dropped a super sticker of love. NK Woa, thank you. It's good to see you, brother. Appreciate that. Oh, anyways, there you go. Movies.
Yeah. That was, sorry to bring that up. I didn't actually mean to go into it that hard, but
you're a passionate man.
I wish they just didn't ruin the backbone of these characters. I don't understand a lot of the reasoning behind.
Who brought it up? Someone in chat brought it up earlier that was it Brian F that they saw Spider-Man, by the way? As did I.
I think it was Brandon.
I really enjoyed
What did you guys think of that? I have not seen that yet, so don't spoil it.
So I think, as someone of you who likes Spider-Man and doesn't like Spider-Man done wrong, you'll like this, because they admit, maybe admit's the wrong word, but they take the old Spider-Mans and they make you like them.
Okay.
They basically say, we're sorry for these. Am I wrong? Jordan the Man, you've seen it.
Yeah, I don't know if they say we're sorry for these, but they
It's a really good way. They pay
make
all
them
this.
make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And
they mock one of
they
your.
do talk about things, and you're like, oh, okay. Well, that's what it would be like if that was brought up in the world
So for
of Spider-Man.
Here's a prime example, and it's not a spoiler, Mr. McSpicy.
Okay.
Well, maybe I won't tell you because you like.
Oh yeah, I like to go in completely
I'll
empty.
say this: they talk about how the different worlds are different and the different Spider-Man. So you've got the emo Spider-Man, you've got the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Man that's there, and you've got the new Spider-Man there, and they're talking about things, and they bring up that doesn't. Well, we can't do that. Why can you do that? And it's good. They do it in a good way.
That was a huge spoiler, by the way, David.
Is it a huge spoiler?
Enormous spoiler?
Okay, I'll just read.
Yeah,
I'll just
that
forget.
That was like the biggest spoiler in the history of spoilers, and I apparently gave out. That was huge.
I'll try to forget what you just said.
No,
You douche.
That's not like poignant to the story at all.
It's pretty like
it's like an
audience jaw dropping when certain things happen.
That's like an off conversation.
Yeah,
but Will agrees with you. Okay, well, apparently that is
it's the conversation that is the spoiler. Yeah, that was huge. Yeah, that was.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, you just got to go see it now.
I want everyone to.
If you want to go see it tonight? There might be a late show that we can at least hit real quick.
I want everyone that hasn't seen Spider-Man to know that I feel your pain. I guess,
but you'll really like it. It's really good. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. That's awesome. David, you're a great guy. You know what?
Hey, I didn't spoil.
The fact that you did it in ignorance makes it even like it's almost like a lovable thing.
It's
like
endearing. I ruined your life in an endearing way.
It may not make sense until people see it, but as soon as they see it, then they're like, "Oh, that's what he was talking about." Yeah, okay, yeah.
No, that makes sense. Then it's not a spoiler.
I don't know. I think it's pretty big.
No. You're all wrong.
Well, I'm screwed. Thanks, David. And what I would say, like maybe a third of our audience is pissed right now. Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, Mark. Why haven't you seen it yet? It's been 2 weeks.
I've been sick, and my wife is pregnant.
That's not an
excuse.
It's not an excuse.
I have literally locked myself in a room for like a week. Because I don't want my wife to.
Has your wife been sick?
No. We've done really, really, really good.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
And I don't because she's due.
Where have you been sleeping?
In another room. I mean, this is kind of a personal question. I set up a bed in another room, so I didn't.
This will hold behind me. That's where I sleep when I'm sick.
Do you need David's pillow?
Need my pillow? My pillow.
No, yeah, because I just didn't want my wife to get sick to complicate things at the hospital because things are weird right now at the hospital. So
yeah.
She's about to pop one out. Just everybody, I'm really excited. My wife is ripe and plump and we're weeks away. We're weeks away, so it's pretty exciting. We'll have a new Jordan. We're gonna add a new support class to the clan.
We need those. No one wants to play him.
He's definitely going to be a healer for starting out. So, anyways,
well, we should probably end on that spoiler.
No one listens to the end of the show anyway, David. It's fine.
Everybody, thank you
made it this far. Then,
yeah, thank you. We're gonna try our outro here and see if it actually works.
If it's choppy, it's choppy.
If it's choppy, it's choppy.
Anyways. It is working, David. It's working.
There's a countdown there, kids, right? There's a countdown. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being here. It means a lot to us. Happy 2022. We'll see you next week. We'll be live next week. Bye-bye, guys. I'm so far to find a better way. I'm walking away from the sun and the